Welcome back. Today we're going to build a ZX Spectrum. This video is kindly sponsored by PCBWay. Thank you, PCBWay. So I never had a ZX Spectrum. When I made my channel trailer, I actually said ZX Spectrum in that trailer, and I have never made a video about them. So I thought, why not go and build one? And that's what we're going to do with the help of PCBWay, today's video sponsor. Thank you, PCBWay, by the way. And what I got myself into is this, which is the PICOZX Spectrum. And I have a few PCBs here, and these come in different flavors. You can have only the main PCB up here, which then mounts into a classic Spectrum case. I opted for the full version, which is the one where you have to solder all the buttons and have a full keyboard and the joystick, port 9-pin and VGA out, and you mount your Raspberry Pi Pico here. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it, plus some USB power. So all the logic, all there is inside this Raspberry Pi Pico, which we have to put here, and that is the PICOZX 48128. It's crazy what you can do with these Raspberry Pi Picos, and that is why I want to do this project, just to see. I had the Atari A8 Pico card on the channel before, which I really like, and I actually made myself a few more of these. Yeah, let's dive into this. So let me make a little list of stuff that I'm missing, and I also went ahead and already sorted some of the surface mount stuff. So you can do these resistors as surface mount or as through hole, and I have some surface mount here and some through hole because, well, don't have these as surface mount. And you have one cap, which is 100 nanofarad. So what you need, or what I need and don't have, I have all of the buttons here. You need two of these longer angled buttons which protrude out of the board for reset and menu. These go here. You need 50 of these little thingies if you're not mounting this in a real case. You need a 9-pin and a VGA connector which plug here. Raspberry Pi Pico, of course. I will use at least one USB-C for power, but it's recommended to use a B-type USB connector, like on a printer. But this also works, and I will show you how to connect this here. I have these as a breakout board from AliExpress for, I guess, $2 for 10 or something like that. Yeah, what I'm actually missing is the SD card slot, which you can get for $2, 10 for $2 on AliExpress. The audio jack, which goes here, same, 10 for 2. And a speaker which goes here, which is a piezo speaker to emulate the sound of the Spectrum and the tape loading sounds. And you can use tape files on the SD card, which is nice, and you can also use these, I think it's kind of a ROM file. Yeah, I will not connect these connectors here. These are for the original keyboard because I don't have one yet. Maybe I will get a case and a keyboard for this, but for now I'll do just that. And you need two wires which go from here to somewhere on the Pico, which I have to figure out still. Yeah, so let me populate the board. And it's so straightforward that I will not show every soldering step. I will just put stuff in here. So this thing goes here, plugs in here. This goes in here, plugs in here. And then you just go and solder this in. Pico just sits on here. USB port goes out, and you solder directly to the board. no pins needed. We have these two switches here which go here if they would fit. Actually fit in here, and they do. Like that. That. There are your buttons. Yeah, and then you have to populate 50 more of these buttons. Specifically, you have to angle these a little. As you can see, these are not straight, these are angled, and you have to put them in like this. And then all the others. Yeah, and the missing parts I will just, or these parts I will just leave out. I will show you in a minute how to connect the USB-C port if you want to use a USB-C port, because it has a different pin out than this. This is just 4 straight pins of connections, and this is 4 connections 2 by 2. Okay, it's the next day and I have finished soldering all the buttons here and here. All the resistors I put on the Pi, which we still have to flash. Did on these buttons, these resistors, this little cap here, which I did put a little bit to the side so that it actually fits. Put on one of these USB ports, which is normally not for that. It had straight pins and you have to have the angled pins, so I angled the pins and just... And I also soldered one of these USB-C ports on here. And I only used the black and the red wire, as you can see. And there are 4 pins on this connector here. This is the connector and this is the outside of the board. So you have to put your ground in the top left and your VCC 5 volts in the bottom left hole of this connector if you want to use a cable like this. I'm still waiting on parts. I have no speaker, I have no SD card. No audio jack, and this port for the USB cable is missing. Other than that, this thing should work except for the flashing of the Pi. And we will do this now. Okay, so I have this long ass cable here which connects to the Pi. And I'm on my Mac here and I just noticed that I didn't have USB port. Great. This is the GitHub page of the project, or for the firmware at least, and there's a mistake on the page itself, on the starting page, PICOZX Spectrum, and it doesn't link here. That just comes in 404, so I found this via Google. And down here you have your firmware, which you can click on. It's just this here, and you can go and say download. That should download this, and what you get then is one of these UF2 files, and these are just copied over to the Pi. So we have to put the Pi in Okay, so since I can't get this working on the Mac, I switched to the PC, and that is not connected to my capture. So yeah, same website. I just plugged in the Pi over USB into my machine down there, and it came up in Explorer as RPI RP2, and that is just a folder. And now we go and download this here. Then we copy this from the download folder over here. That should work. And that's it. And the Pi is off and reboots, and probably already restarted as a ZX Spectrum. So what we can do now is we can unplug it, plug it back in, and see if it has created there's no SD card. Haha. Okay, so we can't see if it created any folders, because if you have an SD card in there and you start the machine, it creates 3 folders on the SD card. There's no SD card right now, so no joy there. But I will add this to the video as soon as I have an SD card attached. So for now we can still connect this ZX Spectrum and see if it actually gives an image. Okay, it's all connected, and that is just two cables, the VGA cable which goes to my monitor here, and this USB-C cable which goes to there and then plugs in there, because of course the ZX Spectrum has no power switch. So, moment of truth, let's plug it in and let's see what it does. Amazing! This freaking works! First time! Oh, okay, so this button here opens a menu. I think it's the same like this here. Yeah. And then you come into the emulation menu. ZX Spectrum 48K 128K by Fruitbat on RP2040 PicoPi at 201.6 megahertz. Wow. And this freaking works. This is totally awesome. So you could build a Spectrum in, well, let's say an hour. It took me an hour to solder this completely, except for the parts that are missing, the 3 ones, but or 4. I guess this will take another 5 minutes. Wow, I am speechless. That doesn't happen too often. Yeah, so now I wait on the parts, especially the SD card, and then we can actually test if it can load tapes and stuff like that. But other than that, it seems to work. It's a few days later and I have finished this board here, and it's the first board I finished. I already started a second one. I had to wait for parts like this buzzer here, but it's very, very quiet, which I had read before. So I actually got myself these little $1 amplifiers, and I'm planning to just put one here with a speaker. I have my SD card reader here, which is a bit sticky because there's some stuff in there. Couldn't get these quickly from China, so I had to order these boards off of Amazon and to desolder these things here, the holder. Also found some of these 3.5 mil jacks, few buttons, and one of these and one of these, and now it's complete. Of course I didn't stop there because I'm an idiot. And so I went and I bought this right here. Let me show you. This seems to be the right moment to tell you that this project, this ZX Pico, is actually on the PCBWay project site. So I will put a link in the description below, and I got my PCBs from PCBWay, and you can just order them with one click, which is pretty convenient. Maybe it's 2 clicks, but you know what I mean. So visit PCBWay.com for these awesome PCBs for the ZX Spectrum Pico ZX Spectrum thing. On with the video. So my first idea was to just use this as is, with these keys here and with no case at all. And I went and ordered these little clips here. And these are to plug in the Spectrum keyboard, the original Spectrum keyboard. And they go somewhere here and somewhere here. And we have 2 ribbon cables which connect there. So I have 3 of these. Then I ordered one of these new keyboard mats in dark gray. And I think this is pretty close to the original, and it's beautiful. It's brand new, very nice. I also ordered these keyboard stickers because you could use one of these Raspberry Pi keyboards, and there's actually room in here, and if you would take only this, I think you could make it work in here. Didn't try that, but well, I'm pretty sure you could. And then you could just sticker the keyboard and have a keyboard, obviously. I ordered one of these brand new covers, keyboard covers, which go over these keys like this on a case. Nice, very nice. I ordered keyboard matrix, which goes under the keys, and here are the ribbon cables which stick into the thingy. And of course, because I'm an idiot, I bought a case. Yes, I bought a case. Sue me, I bought a case. And I didn't buy a black case because it's not even a real Spectrum. So I thought, why not go crazy? And I bought an orange case. I forgot that I bought an orange case. I was sure I bought a red case. Just opened this for the first time. It's the orange one. Yeah, so this is, yeah, screws and stuff. And the feet, I think. Now there's one screw in there. Let me unscrew this. And these are brand new cases and they look really, really nice. Really nice. So if you take the keyboard, no, first you take this here. And I think this goes under here somehow. And then you put on the key mat. Like this, I think. Yeah, should work. And you could use this for an original Spectrum. It's not just for replicas. And this goes up here, and then you have your Spectrum. And this looks interesting, at least. Not sure yet. Yeah, and the board should just go in here. And it should fit perfectly. I'm not sure if it actually does, because I didn't try, of course. But it looks, yeah, looks like it's working. For your SD card here. Yeah, this, I think this works. Then you put this on this, and you're good to go. Let me do this like this. Yeah, not quite. I think there's something to do here. When I have put it all together, I will, of course, show you. Okay, so I did set this up with a proper speaker, which is way too large to be put in here. The keyboard is attached, and I actually soldered these little connectors on here. And I found out it doesn't matter which way around, you can just put them any way you like. I have this little €1 or $1 amplifier, and this is for the volume, and I just put the input on the speaker output here, and then I soldered 2 wires, because this needs 5 volts, through the underside. Use these holes for the speakers, to the USB connector here, and on the left side there's 5 volts, and on the right side there's ground. So I have my 5 volts, and then I can just, yeah, now for testing purposes I have this speaker here connected. Right now it's only the left channel attached, because it's mono anyway. Quickly plug the keyboard back in, which is just 2 ribbon cables like this, and then we have that. Found out that the case wouldn't close like this because these connectors are too high, so I have to cut here, and on the top side, try and plug it again, I have to cut all of this to make this fit. And that's a shame, because I'm really reluctant to cut a brand new case, but it is what it is. I will have to sacrifice this, because I want a Spectrum, and this is a nice way to have one. And I think it looks rather nice in this orange case. And I finally want to see it closed up. Works perfectly. And I'm really astounded how tall these keys are. I always was under the impression that these are just smallish rubber keys. I mean, they are smallish rubber keys, but not as small as I thought they would be. For comparison, this is a micro SD card, and it's about the size, one key is about the size of a micro SD card. So that's bigger than I actually thought it would be. Maybe I thought it would be half, I don't know. Yeah, on the inside there's nothing. It's just keyboard matrix, which sticks out here. Then the button, and then this metal plate on top. And I will now go and cut this down and make this actually nice and file it and all that stuff. Yeah, so let's hear the speaker, because this is what we are here for. I did prepare an SD card with a game. I will tell you in a minute how I did that and what to look for. Let's attach that. So there's the sound. You can turn the volume up and down. So you could drill a hole in the back here to accommodate for this volume control, but I will not do that. I will just put it on one volume and then leave it like this inside here. And I have ordered small speakers which will fit in here, because the Spectrum actually had this these cutouts here, or these holes for the speaker, which sat down here. Not sure where I put mine, maybe on the underside of this, because there's a little room. I will glue this down here, and then, yeah, that is my ZX Spectrum. So I have to cut a few corners, haha. And then I can show you the games, which is what we are all here for. Okay, so here's the first part cut out and smooth with a Dremel polishing thing. So I used the saw thing to cut it, then the sanding thing to sand it, and then the polishing thing to make it nice and shiny. Yeah, that worked pretty well. So the bottom part is done. I'm a bit more afraid about this here, because this is quite the cutting job. We will see. So let me put this in here, and then can go and do the top part. And there are two tabs here which lock the board in place, and these are also where the screws go through, so there's no screwing in here from this side, at least, because all the screws go through the case and then into the through the board and then in the top case. Okay, I did sticky tape this down, and if you do it like this, there's plenty of room to put the cover on, which is good. And when the speakers arrive, I will just solder them, or it, down here. You can do this without taking the board out. So if you are impatient, as I am, and I've already put on the keyboard and stuck it down, you will have to tape all this off here, because there's holes here, and the sawdust can get in there, and yeah, then the keys don't work. So I had to sticky tape all around and close up all the holes, just to make sure that no dust gets in here. So this is what it looks like after the first cut. You can see here it's quite some molten plastic. Then I will go and smooth this down with this sanding thing, and we will see how it looks after that. So after cleaning up, this is how it looks now. Is it perfect? Nope. But it's as perfect as I'm willing to bring it. So let's see if this could actually work. Yeah, that looks good. That works. Nice. Yeah, so the amplifier is, oops, still in here. And that should still close up well. Let's see. Yeah, it does. No problem there. Nice. So you have your SD card here, you have your 3.5mm audio jack, reset button, menu button, USB, VGA, joystick, and power. And it's my first Spectrum. Who would have thought I would ever own a Spectrum? I didn't. Okay, let me screw this together and then I can show you the games. Yeah, I just noticed that I didn't mention one thing. That is that you have to, if you turn the board around, and if you want to use the USB port here, you have to connect these little pads here on the Pico to the corresponding pad on the PCB. So D- goes on the top and D+ on the bottom. Just two little wires so that there's actually data on here. So I will do this now. Also got the very small speaker in, so I will connect that. And then this project should finally be done and we can actually see games. Okay, so I just used some cutoff from some resistor to make the connection. You can see two little connections here. And I did put on the speaker like this, and I just put it on some kept on tape. And the room for this is plenty in the case. Doesn't look like it, but it's a lot of room in the case actually. And the speaker pushes up, and that's okay, because under the PCB where the holes are, there's not enough space. And I just read that the original Spectrum also had a very silent speaker, and it was a common mod to actually make it louder. So what I did here is pretty much period accurate, even though it's not a real Spectrum. Let's check this out. We have this SD card here that does come out because we have this slot here, which is nice. And I'm using an Amazon 64 gig Amazon Basics SD card. This thing is a bit picky about the SD cards. I tried 4 or 5 different, and in the end only the Amazon Basics worked. I had some Chinesium lying around which didn't work at all. They just didn't show up on the menu of the Pico. So let's put this back in, and you need a FAT32 formatted SD card, and if you put it in blank, that is FAT32 formatted in this, and start it, open the menu, it will create the directory structure, and then you can put into this directory structure, which is tapes and I think snapshots, in a subfolder of ZX Spectrum. You can put your tab files or your Z80 files. The tab files go in the tapes folder and the Z80 files go into the snapshots folder. Tab files are the classic tape files, so if you use a tape file, it actually loads the tape. I will show you that in a minute. And snapshot files are memory snapshots, so they are there instantaneously, like a cartridge. And I will show you both, and both work perfectly fine. So let's start by just plugging this in. We need an VGA cable. I have my joystick connected for the menu because the menu keys are down in here, so you can't reach them. You can open the menu here with this button, and you should solder this button in, and then you use the joystick for the menu. And we have a power cable, which is a standard USB cable, which goes to my USB hub over there. So let me switch cameras, and then I will show you how this goes down. Okay. I had to set up the camera because my capture device doesn't pick up the VGA signal on this nice little Spectrum here. So let's start the engine. Power. And there we go. So first of all, you have actually two ZX Spectrums in here, which is the 48K version and the 128K version. And as I understand it, the difference is mainly in memory and in that the processor speed is a bit faster on the 128. It's just a tiny bit. I think it's 3.5 megahertz on the 48 and 3.58 something megahertz on the 128. So you have some options here, and this is like a little introduction into the Spectrum because I learned that myself, so I'm not an expert. You have a tape loader which actually starts the tape loading process, and we are now looking at the start screen of the 128. And if you select tape loader, you can in the background start a tape and then it will load. You have 128 basic, which is different from the 48 basic. In the 48 basic you had to use these keywords on the keys here, and you had, for example, if you wanted to type in print, you had to push the C button with a, I think it's a symbol button, so that the print keyword appeared. In the 128 basic you can just type like in every other basic on the 8 bits, and you have a real editor and stuff like that. You have a calculator, which is just a one-line thing where you can add numbers and stuff like that. You have the 48 version, which is the version where you have to push the keys for the keywords. And you have tape tester, which is to adjust the tape so that it actually works. Because on the Spectrum, I guess the 128 also, you didn't have an integrated tape that came later, and that was pre-configured, but you could pretty much use any tape recorder which had a mono out to load games or tapes into the Spectrum. Okay, so if you push on the back of the machine the menu button, you get into the menu, and that is if you don't have an open board. On the open board you navigate with these arrow keys here, and you select with this key on the side, and menu is on. You have two menu keys, this one and this one, and it's the same key. So you have to use a joystick now to navigate this menu, and if you go right, you go into the sub menu, and up, down, and all the stuff. So you can select a snapshot, which is like a memory dump of a game, and I have some games in here. So we can, let's say, jump into Head Over Heels, and these are those that80 files, and some of these have an A and an A2 and A whatever. I think these are different states of the game. So if a game does some loading after it has loaded into memory and it needs more data, you of course have to change the memory dump because the data is not in memory. So I assume that is that. I have not played a game so far that I needed an A or A2. So let's use this. And you can select your joystick, and I have the Kempston interface, which you can also, by the way, configure in the menu here. So you have three options: Kempston, Sinclair L and R, and Sinclair R and L, whatever that might mean. I'm using Kempston. More on the menu in a minute. If you push the menu button, you'll just get back to there. And in most games, you have to press space or enter to actually get into the game. Then you can use the joystick, but again you have to use enter to start the game. Yeah, it's not very consistent. Yeah, and here you can hear my integrated mini speaker here, that is this one, with my amplifier, and that's sound coming from inside the case, so that is pretty good. And then you can just go and you play. And Head Over Heels is one of those great Spectrum and CPC, Amstrad CPC classics. This isometric puzzle game. And you die. No, you don't. Yeah, so that is snapshot loading. The much more period accurate loading is tape loading, and for that you can select one of the tapes here. I have some tapes here, and I will put a link in the description where you can get all that stuff. So before you start the tape, you actually, let's do a reset here. You start the tape loader first, then you go into the menu and you select the tape you want to load. Let's say Barbarian. And then you exit out of the menu, and then it starts immediately. So tape loader start, then tape select. And you can see it found Barbarian. This works actually like the original tape files. So this is like the original Spectrum feeling minus the tape recorder. But it takes as long as the tape takes to load. And that's awesome. I think that really gives you the feel of a real Spectrum. And this takes minutes to load. So I will not show the whole process, but I think you get the idea. And it works flawlessly. If you can't load it in this mode or in this 128, then you go here and you select reset 48K ZX Spectrum. And exit out. And then it starts in the 48K spectrum, which is this one right here. And then you load it in the emulator for the 48K spectrum because, as I said, timing and memory. By the way, the 128K memory is banked, so there's not a whole 128K available, but it's like bank swapping. You have to make your program work with that, so you can't just use the 128K. Yeah, so that is that. Let's get back to the menu. You can switch audio on and off. You can set the volume, so there's no need to have access to this little thingy in here. You can just set the volume to over the emulator, and you have some settings. You can load and save these. That's pretty much all there is. Kempston interface for the joystick or a different one. If you add tapes or snapshots and you insert the SD card, even though you start the machine fresh, it might not show these. You have to push 5, which is refresh, and then you'll see the files. I had some issues with this, and I didn't know that I have to press refresh. And I was wondering why the files didn't show up. So that is that. Yeah, so all in all, this is an absolutely awesome project. As far as I know, you can even use different emulators like a C64 emulator and all that with this kind of interface for VGA and joystick and USB. So maybe I will do a follow-up video about that because I have the hardware now. As I said, you can get these boards complete with a keyboard or just the top part, which I think you could put into one of these Raspberry Pi keyboards. And it's, I think I paid about 20 euros or $20 for a whole spectrum without minus the case. So just for this here, a working spectrum, 48 and 128 for about 20 euros. And if you don't need the case or you print one yourself, there are STL files for 3D printing available for cases. So if you do that, you get a $20 or 20 euro spectrum. So find a friend who wants to build one too, and then you are at the $20 or so mark. Yeah, I think this concludes this video. That was really a fun project and it was easy to do. So if you are a beginner in soldering and stuff like that, this might be the project for you. As always, thanks for watching and I see you around next time. Bye bye. And just when I wanted to end this video, this came in, and this, as you can see, is a real spectrum. I paid 39 euros for this, and you will see this in one of the next videos. It's 48K, by the way. Cheerio. Thanks again to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. If you need any PCBs, pre-assembled PCBs or 3D printing, please use the link in the description below.
Thank you for watching Retro is the New Black. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. If you like the video, please share. Every like, share, and comment helps a lot. Until next time, bye-bye.